The House of Mystery presents Inside Writing, the radio show where authors discuss their writing process in all genres.
Welcome back into the House of Mystery, and I am Al Warren, and Mr. David Martino is back.
I'm back.
Where did you
back
go?
Once again.
Yeah. Karate? Doing karate again?
Always.
Every
martial art.
I noticed with a lot of martial artists in your videos that you guys have, everyone that's getting older have big stomachs.
Yeah, that's true. Well, that's called master's belly.
Master's belly.
Yeah.
Well, how come in the movies they don't look like that?
Liposuction.
Oh.
Dietitians. I'm working on it, Al.
You're saying
Come
it's
on.
all fake, right? It's all fake. You guys
I'm working on it. I will. I'm going to get rid of this belly.
Yeah. No. It's the Steven Seagal look. I tell you, if I get any calls on that, it's your fault.
No.
Okay.
Well, send it my way.
Yeah, I will. I'll just give him your number. Now, speaking of Steven Seagal, we're talking about action, thriller, and adventure today, and we've got a writer that covers that. So, Mr. Jack King, thanks for being here.
I appreciate it, and I want to make one comment, which is, most of the action martial arts figures are Asian, Chinese, Singapore, and they just naturally have slim, very slim tummies. I play basketball with a lot of Chinese guys, and they can be in their 40s and 50s and early 60s, and they still don't have stomachs. It's not fair.
Yeah, it's not right.
It's not.
It's not right. Poor old Dave there. He's going for that Steven Seagal look. So,
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, except for the hair.
Yeah, no hair and no ponytail.
Well, that's good. No man
working
buns
on
here.
No.
So Jack, now I always wonder what gets someone into writing about this kind of thriller, this kind of action. How did you find yourself in this place where you're writing these books?
Well, to be honest, I had an itch to write for probably about the last 30 years or so, and I didn't get around to writing my first novel until I was 57. I'm an older guy. Don't look at me, God, but
It'll come.
I'm 72 now, and I still look 20 years younger, naturally. But anyway, the first couple of novels were time travel fantasy series and historical fiction, and well written. People liked them, but I really wanted to write something that was going to that would have a chance at being a bestseller. And so I kind of looked around and looked at the genres that were the best-selling genres, and romance is one, or some kind of theme of romance, and thriller was the other. Well, I'm not going to write romance, so that led me to thriller. So what I did then, my writing style previously had been almost like, the writing of the Victorian adventure writers, like the Sherlock Holmes, for example, all the way through the early 50s, where it was more of a flowing style. And I knew that wasn't going to work. So I went back and I reread the first two bestsellers of James Patterson over and over and studied that style of writing. And I changed my style of writing 100%, 180 degrees to be that style of writing and writing these crime thrillers, which means it's short sentences, short paragraphs, short chapters, gritty, choppy, dialogue is hard-hitting and punchy, etc. And so, it was just total change in writing style. So my current series is a crime thriller series in which I plan for the main character to be with us up until he is retired from the police force and then has his own private investigative agencies in multiple cities around the country. And then if the series is still going on, I'm going to have him retire and his oldest son take his place. The other thing I've done in this series is there's 8 years in between each book, but it's the same character. So book 1, you see him in 1985, and he's a sergeant. He's not a rookie, but he's not experienced yet. The next book is 8 years later. And you see him progress in both his career and his experience level. The one thing he has from the beginning is a gut feeling, an ability to know when something's up, when something's not right, to have, instincts, great instincts, and think outside the box and act outside the box. But that's how I got into writing this type of writing and this type of books, is because I'm wanting something that could be made into a Hollywood on-screen movie, or it could be made into a TV series, but something that would sell well, whether it's in print or whether it goes on screen. And that's where I'm in, the direction I'm in right now.
Well, how did you, so you're in this, you've got this Detective Cliff Husto. How do you come up with a character like that, and how much of yourself is in that character?
Well, I have, let's just say that I have someone that is, that I've come across that it was a kind of a prototype of that individual, a cop's cop, if you will. And so, a lot of the personality traits and everything is kind of a combination of what I saw in that individual and other individuals as a composite, plus my own perception, if you will, of a police detective that was a good guy, a good Joe, a good family man, not a skirt chaser. The early Noir novels that had the detectives or the private eyes, where there wasn't much difference in morality between them and the guys they were chasing. And I wanted someone that was more realistic, true to life. The vast majority of police detectives across the U.S. are honest cops. They're good guys. They're married. They've got kids probably. They're probably good role models, and probably the majority of them are religious. If they're in the East Coast, they may be Catholic. If they're in the West Coast, they may be Episcopalian. If they're somewhere in the middle, they may be Methodist or Baptist. But they're just good guys that have gone into law enforcement. So I wanted a guy that was just a good all-around Joe, and stark contrast to the serial killers and nutcases that he's chasing, the crimes he's trying to solve. So that's how I came up with that main character. And like I said, there's 8 years in between each book, and so you see him progressing. Eventually, he'll become the police chief, and then after that, next book you'll see him. He's retired from the police force, but he started his own private eye company agency with offices in 3 different cities. So that's something that's also unique. Most crime books that are written, crime thrillers, detective books that are written, you see the next book, and as far as you know, maybe a year's passed since the last episode. They don't really tell you, or sometimes they do, but it's usually just a short time. And so, there's not any real progression that you see. And I wanted something where people could identify with this person, see him as he's maturing, and kind of really identify with him, and so forth.
Now, would you ever go back to earlier times with the character to maybe flesh that character out in between those 3 books?
Well, I've got book 4 is with the author right now, Vile Blood, being edited now. I'm working on the 5th novel even as we speak. So, I mean, I had 7 novels planned, and if it keeps selling, I'm going to keep going. 8, 9. Once he retires, I'm going to have him replaced by his oldest son. But as far as the time in between the 8-year period, no, it's like 1985, 1993, 2001, 2009, 2017, 2025. And by the way, a lot of the national or world events that happen in those years, or even the local events that happen of substance within the city of Houston, or incorporated within the books.
Right.
Wow.
Like this last book, where it takes place in 2001, it has the events of 9/11 incorporated within the story.
So you must do a fair bit of research before you do each book, then.
I do tons of research. Obviously, since I'm not a cop, I haven't spent a 40-year career, as an investigator or forensic scientist or, cop on the beat. All this comes from meticulous research, and I go into everything. I go into, file cases I can find, descriptions of the procedures and methodologies, the latest in forensic techniques and so forth, the interaction between cops themselves, at work, just all kinds of things, because I want people to read my books and believe that they're reading true crime. And vast majority of people that have bought my books and have read them think that. They think these are real cases. They think these are real forensic cases, and that's exactly the impression I wanted to leave. I wanted to have so realistic that there wasn't any gaps and holes in believability or plot or procedures or whatever, and that people would be not just entertained, but they would believe that this is actually happening, or this has actually happened.
So where do you get your ideas for the crimes or the bad things that happen in each book?
Well, one of the things I do is I have the serial killer or killers and the type of crimes different in each book. And that's on purpose, because I want to cover a different genre of crime, if you will, in each book. So we're kind of capturing the full spectrum. And the first one has the classic serial killer, but what turns that person into being a serial killer? What turns him into someone with no conscience and a thirst for killing, a thirst for blood? And it goes into that, as well as the killings and how the individual is almost a ghost. There's no evidence left behind. There's no physical traces. There's no forensics. It's cat and mouse until he's finally caught, toward the very end of the novel. But then, the next novel, it gets more into, the second novel, it goes into everything from a Gulf War veteran with PSTD and vicious gangs and anti-government organizations and college students, Islam college students are becoming radicalized, to a gay serviceman. This is before Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and he's bullied all the time by comrades. A whole host of possible suspects that could be doing, the bombings and the serial killings, so that the reader is left to try to choose and try to decide before the end of the book. And that, by the way, that's another thing I've added, is not just the writing style of early James Patterson, but it's the plot device of Agatha Christie, meaning there's a multiplicity of viable suspects in each book. And you, the reader, have to try to figure out who the guilty party is, the murderer is, before the end of the book and the surprise ending, shock ending. Just like when you read one of her books or you see one of the movies made from one of her books, Murder on the Orient Express, you're trying to determine yourself, play detective and see who the guilty party is. And I have to tell you that I have yet to have a single reader successfully choose the right serial killer in any of my 3 books so far. So I've done my job of keeping not just page turning, but in suspense, but then guessing. But anyway, that I follow that in all the books, where it's multiplicity of suspects.
Now each book will stand alone, right? You don't like someone can pick up book 2 and.
Yeah, I know. Each book can be standalone. In fact, if you want to have something interesting, like let's say book 4 is done and it's out and it's late fall when the publisher comes out with it. What would be interesting is for a reader to get book 4 and then get each book backwards, book 3, then book 2, then book 1, rather than starting with book 1 from the beginning. If you follow it, that would be kind of interesting to me as a reader if I were doing it myself. But each book, except that it's the same main character and 8 years in between, each book seriously can be read standalone.
Yeah. So how do you yourself keep track of what happens? Like, so for book 1 to 2 to 3 and onward, when you're putting an 8-year period in there, how do you do that?
Yeah, no, that's a very good question, and that's another thing that I do is it takes me as long to write the detailed chapter by chapter outline as it does to write the book. I will have I'll make each chapter a standalone story, and everything about it, the characters, the plot, the timing, the research, plot twist, everything, and go chapter by chapter by chapter by chapter. If I've got 13 parts in the book and it's got 110 chapters, every one of those is I get all that outlined before I even start writing. And I double check my research. I double check that there's no holes in the plot, that there's nothing that is inconsistent or unbelievable. I check to make sure that it flows, all of that before I even start writing. And so there's no confusion of characters, there's no confusion of twists and turns in the plot, which there's lots of twists and turns. And that's how I do it. It may take me 2 months to get 2 or 3 months to get an outline totally done before I start writing, because I want to keep everything straight, not just within itself as a standalone book, but within the previous books and what's happened with the previous books and characters that were in the previous books, especially other co-workers that was in the previous books, etc.
Well, I'm wondering how you experience your characters. Do you have an inner monologue? Can you hear them? Is that how you create dialogue? Is it more that is it more visual for you, like watching a movie? How does that work for you?
It's kind of both, if you will. It's kind of both. I sometimes when I'm writing the dialogue, I visualize in my mind as if it's an actor that's on screen that's saying it. And other times, I'm kind of reacting to the plot flow and trying to get the dialogue written as it's as realistic as possible. Keep in mind, this is noir, detective, crime, bloody, bad villains, and so the one thing I do is I keep the good guy is a good guy. He doesn't use profanity, but people he's chasing and people that's other people, They use profanity, sometimes profusely. They talk as if they had been in prison for 20 years, and they've done armed robbery, and they've done murder, and they've done this, and they've done that. It's very realistic in that way. But writing a dialogue is kind of a combination of the two. There's sometimes I almost see it in my mind as if it's a movie, and other times I'm just writing dialogue and thinking, okay, is this realistic? Does it sound like if someone's reading this, that this is believable?
Well, so when you do these, you said you've got 7 books kind of that you want to do in this series. So have you already kind of outlined all 7 of them first of all?
Oh no.
No.
I don't start outlining until I'm starting on the new. It's an arduous process to do this outlining.
Yeah.
Trust me. I don't know of any other writer that does the detail that I do. And I'm been Facebook or LinkedIn friends with tons of writers, not just, a lot of indie authors, and those are hybrid publisher printed, and, some best-selling authors, and all kinds in different genres. And I don't know of anybody that does the kind of detail in their outlining that I do. And I do that because I want it to be cohesive and realistic and consistent and believable throughout. I can't tell you how many times I've gone back and reread bestsellers, even Pulitzer Prize-winning novels. And after reading them years and years, I find something that's just a major plot hole and now I'm just so disappointed because that was so stupid for the author to do that. And I'm not going to name the names and call them out, but there's a lot of books out there where it's just not consistent. It's not believable, or it's silly. Something they've done with the plot, for example. And so I want to have something that there may be other criticisms, let's say writing, for example, I don't know, but that's one area where I don't want to have anyone ever have any criticisms about books.
Yeah.
I want them to be, just cohesive throughout. Believable.
Well, do you kind of know where you're going to go then? Like, even in the 7 books, do you kind of know what kind of the primary part of each book's going to be, the basic story even before?
No, not really. I have a general idea, but then try to flesh that out. It's almost like, let's say some guy says, I think I want to have a vacation island. And they know what the island looks like, and they know, that it's got beautiful beaches, and it's got this and got that. But then once they get on the island and they own it, they start developing it. And they build out all these kind of things, and they take years to build it out. That's kind of like what the process is. I have a big general idea of where I want to go, and then I've got to start building.
Now, what? And do you have a process? Or can you just round off time in your day? Like say, 9 to 5 on Monday and Wednesday I can work, and can you just sit down and turn it on?
Well, actually, I've been doing consulting for sales and marketing for last 5 or 6 years. Last time I was with a company, I was an EVP of their sales and business development. But that's been a while. I've been doing so. I can make my own schedule, and sometimes I'll write middle of the day. Sometimes I'll write it's early morning. It just depends. I don't write full time. I don't write 40, 50 hours a week like it's a full-time job. And if I have any kind of a writer's block, I back off for, 2 or 3 days. I think the longest I've ever backed away was like a week and a half. And when I come back, my brain's thinking again. I found a way around that roadblock, and we're moving again.
Well, have you taken anything from your business career to inform your novels, or has it helped you to create the novels?
Well,
the experience that you gained?
let me tell you what has helped. I originally wanted to be a history professor, and I went through undergrad and a master's and a year's work on a PhD before I realized there weren't any jobs. I wanted to be a university professor, Division I, and it was like less than 0.5% of PhD graduates a year before got jobs, real jobs. I don't mean teaching in high school or something not even in teaching or in the field. And so I got into business, got an MBA, and then when I got out, I was originally in the advertising agency business. If you've ever seen Mad Men, that series, that gives you a good idea. Then I went from there to being head of marketing on the client side, and over time I got into sales and managing sales teams. And then as my career progressed, I was managing sales and marketing, the sales teams and marketing. But what I did learn from all that is how to research from, being in history, how to research, and then how to be cohesive in my writing just from the business sense, because I was always, if you call it the copy chief. Every place I was, if there was any marketing to be done, even if I was the VP of sales and marketing, I'd be the guy writing it because I was the best writer they had. If you follow what I'm saying, whether it was a brochure, a PR piece, it didn't matter what it was. I was always the best writer at every company I was at, in the departments I was in, even if it was a Fortune 100 or Fortune 1000 company. So I always had that ability. But the research and learning how to research was invaluable, because I couldn't do what I'm doing unless I did the kind of research I did into the chapter by chapter, foundation, and before I start writing the books.
So when you write this, does each book have sort of a point to it or a subtext or something that you hope the reader will take away besides the entertainment value?
Well, I always have one character in each book so far, and I'm going to keep that up, where they've either been a damaged character or a semi-criminal character, but by the end of the book, that person has found some form of redemption. I'm not talking about religious, okay, but some form of redemption and turning their life around, and being a better person and having, a good, normal, happy life. And so every book kind of has that person that kind of comes out at the very end, very, very, very end, where you see that, they're going to have, a much better, happier life from that point on. And so that's my way of showing people, telling people that no matter what you're going through, if you are committed, you can come out on the other side and be a better person, have a better life, be strong, stay strong and keep fighting. That's kind of my message to people as they're reading, in addition to the entertainment value, of the books.
Right. So now in the new world here of social media and everything, do you like to interact with readers and stuff? And if you do, how do you like to do that? Do you have like Facebook, TikTok? Where can people find you?
Well, I'm such an old guy that I'm not. That's one area where I probably should have had a professional. Even though I was in marketing for all those years, it was old line marketing. The print and TV and radio, and long before the internet and social media started happening. I mean, I have a LinkedIn where I have close to 30,000 connections, which is most you can have. And Facebook, I had up to 5,000 for the last 6 years. I'm on Instagram and I'm on Twitter. But I wouldn't, and I do interact a lot with readers and other authors, but I wouldn't say that I'm very skilled at doing a high-level social media marketing, sophisticated campaign. I'm just not. I'm still learning a lot of things, even though I knew a lot about marketing and selling in the business world. Book marketing is in social media is a totally different animal.
Right. Do you have a website then that people can go to?
I don't have an updated website. I have an old website. You can still go to it, that has my earlier books. I have not gotten around to updating the website or creating a whole new website that's got the new series. I have a new author that is doing this new series, not new author, excuse me, a new publisher. And I just haven't gotten around to having a new website created yet.
Oh, well, get on that. Well, and so how was writing for you the last couple of years with COVID and everything going on, all the strange things that have been happening? And I asked that in the sense that, do you think when things are kind of strange in your life or around you, do you have a problem writing?
No.
No. Okay.
I mean, I don't write as to make things better. Some people write because it's therapeutic. I don't. No, I write because it's in me to write. Whether things are going good or bad on other things, other parts of life, still have the desire to write. So, and COVID, quite frankly, since I was writing out of my home office anyway, made no difference whatsoever.
Right. Okay. Well, where do you see yourself going then? What's coming up next? You've got the new book out, the False Blood.
Well, I have a new book that's being worked on, Vile Blood, that hopefully will be out this fall, late fall. I have the next book in the series. I'm in the midst of finishing up the chapter outline before I start writing. And I'm beginning to reach out to, possible contacts within, the film industry and the TV movie industry, to see if I might be able to get something to bite there, to get it turned into either an on-screen movie or maybe even a TV series. So that's something that's beginning to percolate some heat.
Well, great. Well, good luck to you on that. Well, we really appreciate you being on the show, and very interesting conversation. Now, the book, the newest one in the series, is called False Blood, and the guest has been, we've had the guest, the writer, Jack King. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, guys, and my pleasure meeting you, David. Take care.
Thanks, Jack.
Tired of wasting time trying to decide what to watch on your streaming service? Go to our website and look for the Martino movie reviews.
You've been listening to the House of Mystery radio show. To find out more about our guests, hosts, or shows, go to www.houseofmystery.com.
Show's over for now.
Was it as good for you as it was for me?
Yeah. Good night.
This has been a production of Something Weird Media.
I'll be back.